Hello, everyone. This is Henny Espinosa with Just Wish Foundation. Today, we are joined by a co-founder of what started out as a small family project and has now turned into a global movement of kindness. Thank you so much for joining us, Nick FIORITA of Blankets of Hope. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you for having me, honey. I'm really excited to chat.
So, Nick, take us back to that summer of 2016 when you and your brother Mike, your younger brother Mike, had this like life-changing decision. You guys decided
Mhm.
to quit your 9 to 5 job in search of a more meaningful venture. So, tell us about that. What brought about that?
I think, like a lot of people that can probably relate, we were going into jobs that really just didn't make us feel alive. I felt like we were kind of just going in to get a paycheck, then we just kind of would take the train and the subway in New York City every day, and we'd look around, and there was this one day we saw this man that was about in his late 40s, early 50s, wearing a suit, sweating, kind of looked just like a zombie and looked like he had been doing this day after day for the last 30, 40 years. And one day, my brother Mike, looked at me. He's like, "Yo, Nick, I don't want to be that dude."
Hmm.
And we kind of both reflected on it, and we just said, "Hey, if there's ever going to be an opportunity for us to go out and something out for ourselves, it might as well be now." We fortunately are the youngest of four, so we have two older siblings that kind of lay the path for us, and we saw kind of what is ahead in the game of life with eventually kids possibly, and a mortgage, and all these big responsibilities. So the way we saw it was, there's nobody relying on us now. So if there's ever going to be an opportunity, now is the time to go out and figure out how we can do some work that really makes us feel alive, because life is way too short to just do something just for the paycheck.
Would definitely second that. But how did your family feel about that? Your parents, your
Oh,
older
we scared.
siblings,
Yeah.
how did they
I,
react when you guys told them about that?
Oh yeah, I'll never forget that day. We sat down and told my mom. So my mom um, is she's more the conservative one in the family, and kind of always pushed us to do really good in school, get a safe job. That's why I studied accounting in college and kind of went into the corporate world. So when we told our Italian immigrant mom that we were quitting our safe, well-paying jobs to go pursue who knows what, in her eyes, in this world of entrepreneurship, she was petrified. But I got to give her a lot of credit, though, because even though she was petrified, she didn't hold any sort of grudge against us, but because she just loves us so much, and she gives us so much unconditional love, that she didn't let her fear for us stop us from doing what we really wanted to do. And although she was scared, she reluctantly kind of gave us her blessing, I guess.
So then thereafter, what happened next? You made that life-changing decision. Take us
Yeah,
to
so we're
that moment
right. Yeah,
after, like the next
so
few
we're
months.
riding. Yeah, you're
What
riding that
happened?
high, right? You walk into your boss's office and you give him the 2 weeks, and you feel like you're on top of the world, like you have unlimited freedom, and like you're kind of sailing the open sea. But little did we know that feeling of a high would come crashing down shortly after, because the world of entrepreneurship is really, really tough, right? You go from getting this paycheck every 2 weeks to now nothing. Now you're just slowly dwindling down that savings account that you had when you quit your job. And I often tell people, the analogy I like to say is, like, it's almost feels like you're in the middle of the ocean without a life vest, and you're just kind of paddling your hands to try to stay afloat.
Yeah.
And there's just a ton of anxiety that's happening. And my brother and I were basically going from one idea to the next, really not catching traction on anything that we were putting out there. And just like I said, anxiety was through the roof, dry heaving over the toilet. Like, there was some really, really dark times during those first 6 months where we were very fortunate that we had each other, because when one was down, the other would kind of pick them back up. And that really is one of the only reasons we survived those tough 6 months leading up to kind of that light bulb moment.
Hmm. So that light bulb moment, how did
Hmm.
that happen? How did we come to this? This,
Yeah.
what started out, it's, you guys described it best, like what started out as a small family project, it's turned into this massive thing. So what happened? How did you reach that point, that light bulb moment?
So now it's fast forward 6 months later, and we still have not had any traction on anything. And I was laying in my bed and I couldn't sleep, and all of a sudden, this image of a homeless man popped into my head. And every day when I was commuting into my job in New York City, I'd take the subway and I'd get off at Madison Square Park. And every day I would see this homeless man on the park bench, and I would kind of have this conversation with myself. Like, I wanted to go and help him, do something, talk to him, but I never did anything. I kind of walked right past him, went into my office, and did, my work as usual. But for some reason on this night, he popped in my head, and a little voice whispered and said, if you're not going to do something now, then when are you going to do it? So I jumped out of my bed, I opened my laptop, and I went to GoFundMe, and I just wrote a little story about how I wanted to raise money to get blankets to people living on the streets of New York City. I figured, it's a very practical thing, right? If I was outside and I was cold and someone came up to me with a blanket, I would appreciate it. It really wasn't much deeper than that.
Yeah.
So I closed my laptop that night, feeling good about what I just did, and now I had to wake up the next day and tell my brother and my business partner, Mike, I got this idea. I want to blanket the homeless. And he looked at me and he said, Nick, that's really kind of you, and that's great and all, but like, we're about to be homeless ourselves. If we don't figure out how to make money for ourselves, and this isn't going to do it. I said, Mike, you're absolutely right, but something inside my bones says, like, we have to just do this real quick, and then we'll get back to the drawing board and figure it out. Mike eventually buys into my passion, but he's also someone that doesn't like to half-ass anything he does in this world. So he said, let's also add a handwritten letter to go with every blanket we hand out, to really add this level of human connection, to let these people know that there's people out there that are thinking about them, that care about them, and most importantly, that we believe in them. So we raise some money from friends and family that feel bad for us. We buy some blankets on Amazon. We write some handwritten letters, and we plan a day to go out in New York City with our family. And before we went out, we bought a little camera to document the day, to show the people who donated, this is the impact we're making with your money. So we go out with our family and we have an incredible day, right? Like, as you can imagine, when you're giving and expect nothing in return, that's the juice of life. There's nothing that makes you feel more alive, right? When you see someone go from sad to smiling, there's just no better feeling. So we have this beautiful, amazing day of giving back, and it feels great. We get home and my brother takes the footage from that day. We put it together in a short film. We call it Blankets of Hope, post it to our Facebook page, and that's it. Blankets of Hope is done. Small family project. Maybe we'll do it again next year during the holidays, but now we have to get back to the drawing board and figure out how we're actually going to make some money for ourselves.
Yeah.
But God, the universe, the greater force that is, kind of had some different plans for us. And a couple nights later, we got an email that basically changed the entire trajectory of our life. And the subject line of that email was donation to Nick and Mike. It said, hi, my name is Todd Chafee. I'm a venture capitalist in California. I came across your Blankets of Hope video. I love what you guys are doing. I would love to provide you mentorship and financial support. Let me know if you want to talk. So at this point, we were like, is someone messing with us, or is this for real? We Googled his name, and the first thing that popped up was the Forbes Midas list. And we immediately responded and said, yes, we'd love to talk. Jumped on a call with this man next day, and for 30 minutes, he just wanted to hear who we were, what we were all about. And he hummed us along for 30 minutes. And at the end of the call, he said, okay, I like you and I want to help you.
Yeah.
He said, I want you to put all your energy and focus on this idea of Blankets of Hope, because I really see the potential to make a big impact here. And if my brother and I were honest, we didn't see that. We were just two dudes handing out blankets in New York City. But when Todd came into our life, we started really dreaming bigger about the impact we can make with Blankets of Hope. Mm-hmm. And, these tech investors, they think in 10x numbers. So we said, we just did 100 blankets this year. Let's figure out how we're going to do 1,000. Mm-hmm. And we had no idea how we were going to do that. But we said, let's put one foot in front of the other and we'll figure out as we go. So we start handing out some more blankets in New York City, start posting to social media. And our second stroke of magic hit when the New York City press picked up our story and documented what we were doing. My 5th grade teacher ends up seeing us on the news and sends me a Facebook message saying, hey, Nick, I saw you on the news. I have 200 students here that would love to help out. And that's kind of when the light bulb went off. It was like, oh my God, this is how we can really change the world. If
Yeah.
we can get the future generations to start thinking with this mentality of kindness and community service, like that is an idea that can really shift culture, right?
Yeah.
And it could become so much bigger than just this thing with just Mike and I, right? We can have these kindness soldiers that are these little
Yeah.
kids across the country, and it just all clicked for us, and it lit us up inside. And ever since that day, we've gone all in on this process of working with schools and working with students to teach them empathy and kindness. And fast forward 7 years later, and like you said, that small family project has turned into this movement with schools in 44 states across the U.S. and over 125,000 blankets of hope delivered.
Wow. I mean, it's like things just fell into place for you guys. There was a moment that there was no clarity, and when there was clarity, it just all fell into place. And for me, when I look at it, it's more than just giving something. It's kind of leaving a legacy behind for the younger generation. Like when you think about it, Nick, about how far you guys have come, like how do you feel about that? Like what started out as a big risk for you and your brother has turned into this, it's a big responsibility, and yet it's such a fulfilling one, right?
Yeah. I often tell people sometimes it feels like we didn't choose Blankets of Hope, but Blankets of Hope chose us.
Yeah.
It almost feels like something much bigger than ourselves. But in terms of like, you talked about legacy. My sister has a son, and one of his favorite things in the world is what he calls his Fifi, which is his blanket. And he was going out to see the Christmas lights recently, and he had his Fifi with him. And he saw a snowman that was a blow-up snowman, and he was shaking in the cold. And he told my sister that he wanted to go give his blanket to that snowman because he was cold. And that's kind of when it went full circle for me. And I realized like the work that we're doing is really making an impact, because if we can get a 4-year-old to think about a snowman shaking, then we're doing something right, because he's going to grow up to be a kid that really cares and thinks about others, and is aware of his surroundings and wants to do something about it.
Mhm. Sometimes when you encounter a homeless person, sometimes people don't know how to react sometimes, whether they look away or they stare, or but you actually directly have had interactions with the homeless community. What have you
Mhm.
learned from all of this, like when it comes to dealing with them, to
Mhm.
when it comes to interacting with them? What were your learnings?
Yeah, I think the one thing that I learned is that um, it's so easy for them to feel completely alone
Mm,
and like forgotten, and it's so easy for them to have lost hope.
yeah.
Because when you see kind of the reason that most of the people that I've spoken to have gotten there is because they really didn't have a safety net, right? So many of us have family and friends that when stuff hits the fan, we kind of can lean on them, and so many of these people just didn't have that to fall back on, and they fell through the cracks. And um, it's really sad that I think the one thing I realize is how lonely they are. And the one thing that me and Mike really try to emphasize when we do have these interactions is making them feel connected to
Yeah.
society again.
Yeah.
And one way we do that is such a simple thing of asking them what is their name, right?
Yeah.
Because it's something that we so often take for granted, right? You go to Starbucks, they put your name on the cup. You go home, your family calls you by your name, right? It's the sense of identity we have to this outside world. But for them, like they haven't heard their name called
Yeah.
in forever, right? So to have them say, I am this person, and make them have that identity again, and then connect with them on a human level and just want to
Yeah.
hear their story and have them talk, and just listen, I think
Yeah.
really humanizes them.
Totally, totally. For the children that, for the students that have helped you in this endeavor, the ones that have written the notes, when you talk to them, what kind of learnings do they get from this experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. And to be honest, the answer is that we learn more from them than they learn from us, because the truth of the matter is that these kids have not been jaded by the world yet. And they don't they don't have these bombardment of the of stuff that's happening on the news and all this stuff. So they really are so tapped into their heart and their empathy that they always actually want to go above and beyond. For the most part, they really want to do more. Like I remember them. Mike and I will go visit some schools, and one day this girl started tugging on my brother Mike's shirt, and she looked up at him and said, like, I want to do more. How can I help more? So, like, the thing that I've learned is just that they have such big hearts. And I think what we're doing with Blankets of Hope is just giving them a vehicle, an opportunity to express that already, and for them to practice that. But they all have it within them. It's just a matter of, and I think it's even beyond kids, it's everyone. We all want to do good in the world. Yeah. I really believe that. And I think sometimes it's a matter of giving people this easy on-ramp to doing that good. And we feel like that's what Blankets of Hope is for these kids at school.
Great, great. So where do you and your brother hope to take Blankets of Hope moving forward?
Well, we want to get Blankets of Hope we want to get Blankets of Hope into every classroom across America. That's the big goal. So if we can teach kindness to every kid in every school, like, we think that's a pretty big vision and a pretty big accomplishment, in the sense that, like, the way we look at the work we're doing right now is we look at it as we're planting seeds. Mm-hmm. And these seeds are going to grow into big, beautiful trees 20 years from now. And these kids are going to be the ones that are the leaders of our companies, leaders of our country. So we think that if we can get them to start thinking with this mentality of empathy and kindness now, and they can start forming that worldview, they're going to make a lot of decisions that affect all of us. So that's the grand vision that we might never, ever get to see, but that's kind of what it's about.
But you're definitely leaving the world a kinder, better place. So we at Just Wish Foundation, we were so moved by your story. You're so inspired. And I know you inspire so many people. And for our founder, Mr. Jacku, and myself, we really want to get on board that movement of kindness that you guys have created, that vehicle for change. And so we want to make a monetary donation to Blankets of Hope. And we want to let you know that you guys are good guys. You're spreading good to the world. And we wish you all the best and more power to you, Nick and Mike.
Thank you so much for that. That really means the world. And the truth of the matter is, we can't do what we're doing without the support of so many people like yourself. So just thank you from the bottom of our hearts, because this is so much bigger than us. And when we all come together is really when real change can happen. So thank you, because you are a pure example of kindness.
Amen. Thank you. God bless you guys. Thanks so much, Nick.